Hello, everyone. Good evening. We haven't gone live in a while, so I'm excited to be here. Excuse me. Today we're talking about how to deal with the emotional needy teacher. So as soon as you're here, say hello so I can welcome you and we can get started. As you come in and say hi, tell me one specific kind of needy teacher that you're really looking for a strategy for tonight. And like this, we can, just make sure that we're targeting everyone. Again, I have lots of ideas for a lot of great content prepared, and I'm excited about helping everyone out. So again, as you sign in, just say, excuse me, what's that one needy behavior that you're really looking to solve today? Okay, let's see who's here. Hey, Jenny. Good to see ya. All right, let's see who else is here. As soon as we have some people here, I'll get started. Yesterday I could talk a little bit while we're waiting for people to come in. So yesterday, actually, I don't want to get sidetracked. I'll tell you my story that happened yesterday, a different day. Rivka says, no needy teachers this year. Wow. High five. You hired well. Capiche. Amanda's here. Shawnee's here. Inat's here. Okay. Again, as you come in, let me know that one needy behavior you're really looking to solve. Jenny's here. She says the teachers who constantly want schedule changes, constantly wanting schedule changes for things that came up. Oh, in their personal life, like things came up for them, so now they're like, hey, can you do a schedule change for me? Summer's here. Hey, Summer. We have a handful of young women who are not very professional yet. Excuse me. We spend a considerable amount of time teaching them what professional behavior is. Yes, that can be extremely difficult. Okay, so let's get started. Lacey's here. Hi, Lacey. Constant empathy and recognition is really hard for me. Meaning like every single day, if not more. Chris is here. Hey, Chris Carroll. She says, I'm having trouble figuring out how to get the live feed working. You're doing fine, Chris. You commented here. You see me. You're good. You're all good. Thumbs up for you. Last time we did Zoom. Today we're just doing Facebook Live, just like this. And we are going to get rolling. So you're going to want to get out a pen and paper because I'm going to be going quickly. I'm going to get on my own notes that I prepared for tonight. And we're going to have a limited time access recording to today's session. So if you are ready, we're going to get started. Again, as you come in, for those of you that just came in, share what's the one needy behavior that you're really looking to solve. Post it in the comments, and I am getting started. Here we go. So the first thing is you want to identify when you're, I'm going to take a pause from looking at the comments. I'm going to do some teaching, and then I'll go back to the comments. Step one in understanding and dealing with the emotional needy teacher is reflection on where the neediness is coming from. Okay, so what do I mean by that, right? Like, how do we reflect on where the neediness is coming from? So again, you're not supposed to be a psychologist or anything like that, but you're a coach and you're a leader, and you're supposed to be able to make a diagnosis of where it's coming from. So one reason of neediness could be coming from that this person has always worked for a micromanager boss. And they are just accustomed, they have a learned behavior that they need to double check, triple check with the boss constantly to make sure that it's good enough for the boss. And that's a really difficult behavior to unlearn, that now they need to stop double checking all the time with the boss. So that's what I mean by like reflecting. Okay, so like another example is asking yourself if the environment is safe. Okay, have you been laying people off recently? Are people getting fired from their jobs? That is a huge cause for neediness. Like people are petrified, like I'm gonna be laid off, oh my gosh, I need to like double check, constantly come in, make sure I'm doing everything right, because if I don't, I might be the next person, you know, on the fire. So that's another example of just taking a reflection, okay? Then we have the whiner and the crier, okay? So tell me in the comments if you resonate with someone who is a whiner. And a crier is typically someone who bursts into tears for good things and then critique, right? So like you'll give them a comment and they're like, start crying. And then like you'll, I don't know, you'll tell them feedback on something and they'll like burst into tears. So just let me know in the comments, like, yes, I have someone like that, someone who's constantly whining or crying in your school. So over here we have Amanda says, a teacher that always complains about everything, always needs reassurance that they performed, even though they did it right a lot of times before. Yeah. So teachers that need a constant reassurance comes from two places. Number one, helicopter parenting. Okay. They constantly needed to get that reassurance from their parents. And a lot of it has to do with millennials and the fact that the way that we run, just the way that a lot of millennials were raised in a lot of different ways is like, they got a trophy for showing up. They get a gold medal and a gold star for like just being a part of the game. And so because they've constantly gotten feedback and reassurance just for freaking showing up, when they enter the workforce, work isn't like that. Okay, it's not. You have a job, you do your like you're getting paid to do what you're doing over here. And I'm going to talk about some scripts in a couple of minutes, but that's where a lot of it is coming from. Teachers always stressed out personally, just never happy. Both criers, yes. Definitely a couple of whiners. A lot of women, a lot of estrogen, a lot of hormones. Crystal says yes to millennials. Totally makes sense. Helicopter parenting, never thought. Yeah, oh my gosh, major helicopter parenting going on. And that's what I mean by reflect on the neediness. And then I'm going to walk you through some specific steps. Shayla says, don't know if it fits with neediness, but a teacher's always comparing to a previous place of work. Yeah, of course it is. And she's kind of complaining. She's nervous about expectations, I think. Yeah, a teacher that is always comparing means that you're not clear about the expectations of what you expect from her here. So she's constantly comparing to like, okay, is that what you want also? Because like in my old school, we had to do that. Is that something you expect over here? A teacher who's constantly comparing back and forth is because they're not secure in their space in your school yet. Which is totally normal at this stage of the year. It's still like end of September, October. You haven't had enough time to really build that trust factor yet, but really getting started on that piece of building that trust factor. And the second piece is you've got to be clear about your expectations. Comparisons have a lot to do with lack of clarity. Okay, so now let's dive in. So like, first thing is with dealing with a whiner is you need to like literally stop it immediately in its tracks, okay? So think about a toddler, okay? Or a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old that comes to you and starts whining and complaining, fetching your ear off, okay? When my kids come to me and they're whining, I tell them right away, you need to talk to me like a big girl. You need to talk to me like a big boy, right? He's 5, 6, whatever it is. Mommy doesn't hear complaining. Start over. Okay, and if they start again and they're still complaining, I'm like, come back to me in 2 minutes when you're ready to talk, or take a deep breath. I don't hear complaining, okay? So the way that you're gonna position it to your teacher is obviously not gonna be talk to me like a big girl because she is a big girl, she's 40 years old, or she's 30 or 20, she is a big girl, right? So you can't say talk to me like a big girl. But what you are gonna do is when she comes into your office and she starts like whining and complaining again for the 100th time, and you actually feel like those nails are scratching on the blackboard, and you're like, oh my God, just freaking stop. The better approach to it is take that deep breath and say, look, I understand that you have a problem. Here's how to ask me for help. I need you to position the problem as a question and come to me with 2 options of how you're thinking of solving this problem. Yeah, but you need a minute? No problem. Step out of my office for a minute. Think about how to ask me the question, what your 2 options are. I'll be here in 2 minutes when you're ready. What happens is 9 out of 10 times, it's not a problem anymore. They just wanted to vent. Yeah, well, I'm not a garbage can. You can't vent to me all the time. Okay. And I'm going to go into some reasons why teachers are constantly venting and how to be more proactive about it. But in the moment, you have to teach them a new language. Okay. The language that they know is whining. That's what they know how to do. They only know how to complain. And so you need to actually teach them, because part of being the leader in the school is being a coach. And you're teaching them how to, when they come and they start whining to you, it's not fair. How come she did this? Da, da, da. Is there something specific that you want? You can ask me that in a question, and I'd love you to come to me with some options. So let's say the teacher comes in and she's starting, it's not fair that they got da, da, da. And then you could tell her to come in a different way. Like, this is how I feel. I'd really like my class to also have a time slot at 10:30 because that's a really great time slot, and that class seems to be getting it all the time. So here's 2 things that I'm thinking about. Could we work on a rotating cycle that I get that time slot also twice a week? Or could you set up the cycle or whatever it is? Okay. Now she's talking reason. Now you're like, oh, I didn't even see it that way. Yeah, that class always does get the best time slot. Let's create a rotating cycle. Okay. So let me go into the comments here a little bit before I go on to some more strategies. So Shandel says, it's from day 1 before we even started. How come there's no computer in the classroom? My own school there was. How come there's only 1 newsletter expected? My own school we did 2 and it's better. Okay, again, for teachers like that, you want to stop them right away. And it's like, in this school, this is the expectation. So the minute she starts saying, in my old school we had a computer, thanks for sharing. In this school, the computers are in the office. Okay. And if she consistently starts saying that, you can actually have a one-on-one meeting with her and say, I actually feel a little bit uncomfortable with you constantly comparing our school to the old school, to your old school. This is a new experience. We're really excited to have you here. I'm really excited to hear you grow. I love learning from other schools. Here's how I'd like you to present it. Okay. Because that talk about constantly hearing about the other school and how she basically positions your school in a negative light is actually damaging to you as well, and actually makes you doubt yourself. And that's not a good person to have around. And I'm sure she's a wonderful teacher, so you just need to show her what she's actually doing. Okay. Lacey says, when we started doing this, if someone complains, instead of giving an answer to fix it, we ask them how they think it can be fixed. Yes, 100%. Ask them how they think it can be fixed. And you can also be more specific with them. So not, well, how do you think it can be fixed? Give them specificity. I want you to come to me with 2 options of how you think this problem can be fixed. Yeah, but the problem is right now. Okay, we'll take 60 seconds and think about it. I'll be back in 60 seconds. Like, even just give them 60 seconds of time to think actually shows them I am not a garbage can. You cannot dump on me every single problem. And I refuse to be sucked down by your negative energy, right? That's essentially the message that you're sending, because you need to protect yourself. Okay. So that's the piece when you're dealing with like the whiners and the complainers and whatever it is. Okay. Excuse me. Another thing that you're looking for when you're doing the like reflection kind of diagnosis, trying to figure out where it's coming from, is it coming from the person, had a micromanager in the past and just all of that kind of stuff. You're also looking to see, is this person just really insecure and lacks confidence? Okay. And so, yeah, it's really difficult to give someone confidence when they're an adult already. You're not their parent, you're not their spouse, whatever it is. But it can be done. And I'm going to go into some scripts when we get into that section. But just really understand, like, is this an insecurity? Is this a lack of confidence? Is this someone that's coming from a very needy boss that they need constant reassurance and now they need to be told that's not a behavior that's okay around here? Yeah, so Barbara says, I love giving ownership back to the teacher about the problem. Always. You never own their problems. You don't. It's their problems. Okay. So the first strategy I'm going to give you is being more consistent about your boundaries, which is actually be less available, okay? Because what happens is when you have an open door policy and you're always available, why shouldn't they take advantage of the fact that they could come talk to you? Okay, everyone else gets to talk to you all the time. The secretary, the admin, this person, that everyone gets to talk to you all the time. You need to be less available. The less you are available, and when you are available, you're really present with your people, the less needy your people are going to be. Okay, think about your kids. When are your kids pulling at you the most? When you didn't give them focused attention that day. And I know it because I see it with my kids when I even just test it out to see how it works. When I give my son 10 minutes of undivided 100% focused attention when he gets home from school, I can get 2 hours of zero complaining and zero behavioral issues the entire evening from 10 minutes of focused attention. Okay, but if when he comes into the house, I'm distracted and I'm not 100% focused on him, forget about it. I am doomed for hell that evening. Okay, why? Because he knows I didn't give him his time yet, okay? So he's gonna keep on figuring out different ways to get my attention. And it takes a tremendous amount of self-awareness to realize, oh my gosh, I haven't sat down with him for 5 minutes even. So, and that goes into the whole time management piece. And, we discussed that a ton in the inner circle of how to become more protective of your boundaries and how to be more careful with your time and how to actually do it, not just in theory, but in real practicality of how to become a better master of your time in that kind of way. So you actually need to become less available. Okay, so here are some scripts now that I want to go through because well, actually, before we go through the scripts, let me hear from whoever's here. We have a bunch of people here tonight. Tell me if some of the stuff are resonating so far. So being less available was one thing that we spoke about. Understanding where it's coming from. Spoke a little bit about asking yourself the questions. Excuse me. So let me hear from you guys a little bit about what you think. So Lacey says, so you ever find that teachers don't take, I'm so sorry. I don't understand what you're writing, Lacey. Sorry, can you write it again? Rivka says, yes, trying to keep all discussions for our weekly meetings all at once. Yes. Okay. So while you guys are sharing, I'm actually going to share a different piece over here, is that, and I'm a huge believer of that, whoever's part of my role knows this, is that I always take the first reflection of yourself as the leader. Are you a contributor and a factor to the person's neediness, okay? And the way that you can know if you're actually contributing to the neediness is, do you not give enough feedback to your teachers, okay? Are your staff afraid to screw up, so they're constantly coming to you for feedback, okay? Do you not have your one-on-one meetings set up properly, and so teachers don't get one-on-one time with you, so they're constantly asking you for help, okay? So those are 3 questions to really ask yourself, because a lot of times you are actually the bottleneck of their neediness. And if you created the right time for them, they'd stop being so needy. Okay, so I'm not saying that's the case to every single person that's here tonight. I'm just saying ask yourself those questions. Okay, so Nat says definitely important to be less available. The key is also to find the time to be available and really focus with your staff. Yeah, that is exactly what I've been teaching to the directors in the inner circle consistently over the past couple of weeks. We've really been talking about how to delegate and how to become the master of your time in that kind of way. Crystal says resonates with me and makes sense, and I need to practice that. Amanda says, yes, I put up a sign-up sheet during nap and lunchtime for 15-minute time slots. Awesome. And it's also really following up, making sure that I noticed that the teacher who comes in and is consistently needy, it's did you book your 15-minute time slot? Oh, yeah, I'm speaking to you tomorrow. Great, so we'll talk then. Or is it this is an emergency? And let me define what an emergency means, okay? Because teachers define emergencies as, oh my God, there's no black paint. Oh my God, we're out of glue. Oh my God, the purple construction paper is done. That's not an emergency, Okay, so you really need to define for your people also when you create less boundaries. What does an emergency mean? I always share the story. And for those of you that have been part of my life know the story. I worked for a director for 5 years. In the 5 years, I interrupted her twice. Twice in 5 years. 2 times. Once, when a kid had an anaphylactic attack, we had to call 911. That was the first time I interrupted her. And the second time was when my water broke and I needed to go to the hospital to have my second baby. That's it. That's it. I never, ever, ever interrupted her. Ever. Because there was no emergencies. Okay? So that's just like, again, that's like an extreme example. But like, again, because I'm also a really independent person, I hate bothering people. But even not in the extreme case, in 5 years to interrupt 2 times is really extreme. But even if your teachers only interrupted you once a month, you'd be happy. Okay? Summer says, I'd love to know more how to never own their problems. Yeah, Summer, I'm going to go into some scripts in a second. We're going to go into that. But yeah, definitely change your entire world, because who wants to own other people's crap, for lack of a better word? Lacey says, do you ever have teachers think you're mean by implementing these changes? Lacey, do you have kids? I don't know if you have kids of your own, but your kids are never going to always like you, okay? You know, you're a kid of your parents, right? There are times when you hated them. You really, really didn't like what they said, okay? You have a daughter. Okay, fine. So part of being a leader is laying down specific boundaries that not everyone is going to like. And it's okay if they don't like you all the time. The main thing is that you're not being aggressive or a dictator or this like, you know, authoritarian kind of person, whatever it is. It's also in the way you present the change or whatever it is. You know, if it's like, that's it, no one's allowed to come into my office anymore, you know? No, you're not saying it like that. You're presenting it in a very different way. So, and now it says, I've been working on giving my teachers more one-on-one attention to prevent the neediness. Jessica says, what if I don't like or agree with your solution ideas? So that is about competency, okay? So if you don't like or agree, is it because you just don't like it? Maybe they should be able to have more control over the classroom, right? Is it really going to close the doors and now you're going to have to like close your school because they did their silly idea that you thought was silly? Like, are you going to have parents coming in and being like, I can't believe that teacher did that silly idea. How dare you let something like that go by, right? So a lot of times we have to gauge and ask ourselves, is it just because I don't like that idea? And so what if I don't like it? Like, is it really going to sink the boat? Okay. Shawnee says, I think that I constantly tell people they should come back at their point in time, that it might be dismissive and a big turnoff. No, it's not, okay? When you come to the doctor and you came at the wrong time and they say, you need to come back at your appointed time, do you get upset at the doctor? No, you came at the wrong time. Come at your appointed time and I will see you, okay? So sure, you're gonna be nicer than the receptionist at the doctor's offices, but you're teaching a new behavior. Okay, you have to, it's just like, it's like teaching a kid how to use the toilet. It's like, okay, this is the feeling that it feels like. You got to take them to the bathroom 15 times a day. Eventually they learn when they got to go, right? And you don't need to be schlepping them to the toilet 50 times a day. Your teachers, very similar, okay? You got to push them out very gently. Come back at your appointed time. I'll be available for you then, okay? I love what Jenny said. I'm working on another project. Come at your appointed time so I can focus on you. Okay. So now let's talk about some specific scripts. Okay. Let me just go into that because I wrote that over here. Okay. So if you have this teacher, right, who's constantly coming in 300 times a day, she's just constantly coming in, constantly asking different questions about all different subject matter, all different stuff like that, right? So you want to have a meeting with her one-on-one to really talk to her, okay? This is not a conversation you have in the hallway. This is not a conversation you have on the fly. This is not a conversation you have when you're popping in the morning and saying good morning. And it's like, oh, by the way, Lacey, I just want to ask you something. No. This is not an oh, by the way. This is like, I really want to talk to you about something. Let's talk at 10 o'clock today or something like that, okay? And it's got to be face-to-face. You got to see her eyes, okay? So it goes like this. You know, you've been coming a lot to me to ask me questions about boom, 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 right? And you want to be really specific, okay? Because sometimes in our mind, we think the person comes in 300 times a day, and then when you actually document it, it's like, okay, fine, she came in like 5 times in the last week, okay? So, but what is she asking you, okay? So you've been coming in a lot to ask me questions about boom, 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 right? And then you say, these informal check-ins are really an inefficient use of your time and my time, okay? So you deserve more autonomy, okay? Because I trust you, and you shouldn't have to come to me to ask me for, approval on every single thing, because you're the teacher in the classroom and I trust the decisions that you're making. So is there something more specific that you're really looking from me that I can help you feel more autonomous in your classroom? Because that's what I really want. I want you to feel like you have more control over what goes on in your classroom. And so what's happening is you're giving the person a gracious exit and helping them save face over their insecurity. Because really the reason she's coming is because of a lot of insecurity. But you don't want to mask it in that kind of way because you're a nice person. So you're actually positioning it as, I want you to be able to be more autonomous in your classroom. How can I help you feel more autonomous? Which is basically saying, how can I give you a little bit more self-confidence to be more independent in your decision making? Okay, so tell me if this script resonates you before I go into the next script. Excuse me. Summer, tell me if this kind of resonates with you, if you're like, yeah, I'm gonna try this. I'm drinking Powerade at 9:30 at night. Oh my God, it's almost 9:30. We gotta wrap up. Okay, let me hear from a couple of you guys, and then I might have to do a part 2 of how to deal with an emotional needy teacher, because I still have lots more ideas. Frantically writing as you speak. I love you, Summer. You're awesome. Okay, so okay, I actually think I'm just going to leave you off with one more thing, and then I actually think we're going to do a part 2 because I have a lot more I want to share with you guys. So, just see here from my notes what I want to. Okay, so, okay, I'm going to leave you with one more strategy. Hi, Ronnie. I love letting them know that they're not using our time wisely and clarify that we fix it. Yeah, awesome. Awesome. It's so nice to see you, Ronnie. Okay, so I'm going to share with you one more strategy, and then I actually think we're going to do a part 2 because this is a really meaty topic here. Okay, so the last thing is set new goals. Okay, so a lot of times, okay, let me actually backtrack for a second. So for those of you that have little kids or teach little kids, for those of you that are in the classroom also, little kids talk to themselves, right? They sit on the floor and they play and they're talking to themselves, and they just constantly have conversations. They also have a lot to say, like this. Oh God, this is so funny. So this afternoon, my husband and I went out together. My husband just finished work now for the next 2 weeks. He has off, so we went out for lunch together, and we were talking about our kids and just how we can help them more. And so my husband's like, so funny. He's like, when I wake up in the morning and I come out of the bedroom, our daughter Goldie, she's 5. She's like waiting outside of the room because she knows that she can't knock on our door, she can't wake us up. And he's like, I don't even say hi yet. Like I'm like still opening my eyes, but apparently my eye contact pushes play on her mouth, and she just goes like we're as if we're like in middle of this conversation, and she's like, and this happened and this happened and this, and she's like going on and on and on and on and on. And then when my husband leaves to work, he's like, okay, Goldie, pause. You could go to mommy now. She'll press play again, and we'll continue listening. So one of the things is when it comes to specific teachers is the way that they cognitively process information is out loud. So the way that they're cognitively processing is they need to come to you and they need to talk it all out, and then they feel better, right? Or like, think about yourself even like as a woman, right? So like we need to talk out the whole problem to our husband and not have him solve the problem, just listen. And that's the way that we feel better, okay? A lot of teachers, that's the way that their cognition actually works. Like they need a vent and they need a this and they need to make a whole scene and everyone needs to hear about it and then they feel better. And so one of the things to do actually with teachers like this is to bring them in and actually set goals and say things like, you know, one of the goals that, again, if you're the kind of director that's doing one-on-ones and setting monthly goals and all of that kind of stuff, which we talk about a lot, is sitting down and saying, okay, one of the things I'd love to work on together with you is doing more independent thought, like independent work, independent thinking. And so when an issue comes up, I'd love for you to challenge yourself to try to work through it yourself first and try to think of, well, how can I solve this on my own? And what kind of resources are already available to me to try to figure out how to do this? Or who can I ask for help before I come to the director? Is there a colleague? Is there a coworker? Is there, you know, the receptionist in the front or whatever it is? Can they help me before I come to the director? And so I want that to be your challenge now for the next couple of weeks or even the next few days, you know. If like she's always coming to your office, give her a challenge for 3 days. Like meet with her on Monday and say by Friday, let's meet again and let's review how that, you know, 4-day challenge went. And actually giving her a very cognitive goal that she's working towards, that this week she's really going to work on trying to independently solve her problems. And then when you meet with her on Friday, you overpraise her and say, you know, I really appreciate it. You didn't come into my office even once this week. Tell me how that felt for you. Like, what did you feel like? What was going through your mind? And like, really get feedback from her, like how that experience was for her. Barb says, using the one-on-one meeting, questions for the last few days, 3 needed teachers. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do because it's 9:30 and I really like to keep these Facebook Lives short, is we're gonna do a part 2 of how to deal with an emotional needy teacher. I don't know when, but I'm gonna set it up. But here's the deal, for everyone that was here live, if you wanna hear more about this and you actually want another session, post over here, yes, please make session 2. And if there's enough people that wanna come to session 2, I'll actually make a session 2 and we'll talk about a little bit more specifics and stuff like that. So I'm going to check out for the night. It's 9:30. Let me just see here. Lacey, I could totally relate. I even walk into one classroom with ticker, even if it's to relay a message. And one teacher thinks it's time to talk about whatever happened that day. Yeah. All right, awesome. Ladies, as you sign out, please tell me your one action step. Again, always remember how we run our Facebook Lives. It's all about taking action, not just inspiration. So as you sign out and say goodnight, please tell me what is that one thing that you are going to do tomorrow or next week in your school that's going to help you deal with that one emotional needy teacher. Don't try to attack all of them. One. So let me see as you guys sign out and say goodnight. Let me see what we got here. Okay. Yes, session 2, please. Yes, please. Yes, please. Lots of session 2. Oh, God. Brenda says, yes, please, session 2. Okay. Awesome. So lots of session 2 requesters here. As you guys sign out again. Oh, hi, Elizabeth. We have a new member here who said hello. As you sign out, please let me know that one action step so that I can see what you guys are committing to. Yeah, Rivka, you put someone to cover during that time. So that's why you pick a specific day of the week, either when you have extra coverage or if there's a special that day. I know a lot of schools do it during the time that there's a special. So the special instructor is there plus the assistant or the teacher, whatever it is. And then you get to meet with the teacher for that 20-minute time block. Okay, so Summer says, I'm going to use that script to not take on everyone's problems. High five. Awesome. Okay. Ronnie says, clarify with a certain staff member how we are going to alert our communication. Love it. Lacey says her action is encouraging more problem solving from her teachers. Enot says, I'm going to flip the neediness to the teacher, have her think of a question along with 2 solutions. Yes. So again, you could say solutions or options, depending on the kind of person. So like a lot of times when teachers hear like, well, I need you to think of 2 solutions, they're like, well, what if they're not solutions, right? So options is sometimes a better word because it's like, well, it doesn't actually have to work. Like, just what are the options? Amanda says, stop constant interruptions and ask for 2 options from her whiners. Shani says, when a needy teacher comes in, I can say, I'm working on something right now. Please come during your appointed time so I can give you my full attention. I love that. High five. Awesome. Okay, ladies, have a wonderful night. Have a great weekend. And I will check in with you guys in about a week and a half. I think we're doing another Facebook Live, and I'm going to prep for our session 2. Take care, everyone. Good night.